What is up, YouTube? Jeremy Brand here, MMAsucka.com. We're going to do something a little bit differently on this Friday. We've got UFC on ESPN 55 going down this Saturday evening. And we're going to do some betting predictions and fight picks, or whatever you want to call it, for your viewing pleasure. But before we get into it, again, like I always say, I've got videos for you Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Make sure you click that like and subscribe button and click the notification bell to know when these videos drop. So let's get right into this fight card. We got the main event between Mateus Nicolau and Alex Perez. These guys, it seems like we're coming off of a bit of a UFC 300 bust because both these guys are coming off of losses. We aren't going to start at the very top. We'll move down. We've got actually a couple of new pages for your guys' viewing pleasures over on MMAsucka.com, and I'll show you those before we get into things here. And the first of which is MGM UFC Fight Night promo. Get $1,500 in betting bonuses. And I made some picks here with the best way to use BetMGM for the UFC for this Saturday night. And I go over the main event and I give my pick, and it's going to come down to who implements themselves first for the main event. We'll get into that later. But this is the BetMGM one. We've also got a FanDuel one where I go over some picks on FanDuel, where we go down here and we go for locks of the night, and I will go over those in a little bit. And we've also got a DraftKings one, where if you bet on DraftKings, you can get $200 in bonus bets. And I've also talked about the best way to use DraftKings for your UFC promo right about here. So I'll tell you guys what I said on those in a little bit, but let's go over the fight card itself. I don't want to really get into too much detail on these preliminary fights because, again, a lot of you guys might not know these fighters. You may not want to make the picks. Of course, on your DraftKings lineup, you're going to need to mix and match some stuff. Same with on your FanDuel lineup. But let's move up a little bit, and I want to talk about the matchup between Don'Tale Mayes and Caio Machado. Now, Caio Machado is a guy who's a friend of the channel, a friend of MMAsucka.com, and a local guy from Battlefield Fight League, their heavyweight champion. Don'Tale Mayes, 10-6, very heavy hands, 4 wins by knockout, 3 wins by submission, and 3 wins by decision. Now, he's got 3 wins in the UFC, 4 losses in the UFC, and 1 no contest. He's coming off of a loss to Rodrigo Nascimento at UFC Fight Night in November of 2023. But he beat Andrei Arlovski with a right hook to ground strikes in round 2 at a UFC Fight Night event midway through 2023 and lost to Augusto Sakai at a UFC Fight Night event in 2023 as well. So he fought 3 times in 2023, which is fairly active, especially for a heavyweight. He came into the UFC and lost his debut. Actually, he went back-to-back losses, which is funny because he ended up fighting Rodrigo Nascimento again, and he's lost to him twice now, which is crazy. And then he went on to win 2 fights, and then lost, and then beat Andrei Arlovski. So a guy with heavy hands, he's going to be a big test for Caio Machado. If we look at Machado, again, I said Battlefield Fight League heavyweight champion from Vancouver, British Columbia, trains with Chris Franco. He's 8-2-1 from Brazil, but training out of Franco's Kickboxing and Pancration. He's got 4 wins via knockout, 2 submissions, and 2 decisions. He fought in the Contender Series where he won a decision against Kevin Savarski. It was a very close back and forth fight. Kyle won the fight against a guy who trained with some very, very good guys. He trained with John Jones, I believe, and came into this one as an undefeated fighter, and Machado earned a decision and ultimately earned a contract. And then he went in there at UFC Fight Night in November of last year and lost to Mick Parkin. And he lost a decision. And this was a fight. A lot of people had thought Machado had pushed the pace and pressured this fight and did enough to earn the judge's nod. So a decision for Mick Parkin was, I mean, some people call it justified. Some people picked him. But if you look at MMA decisions, I'm pretty sure all of the MMA media picked Kyle Machado winning this fight. I'd have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure that's what I saw on fight night. So going into this one, he could have been 2-0 inside the UFC. Well, 1-0 with the Contender Series as well. So 2-0. Coming into this Dontel Mays fight, on a completely huge winning streak and winning 2 in a row with the UFC. It's going to be his toughest test, as I said, but Kyle's the slight betting favorite in this one, and I do pick him to win. So if you want to lay a little bit of money on Kyle Machado taking this one, it could be a knockout for him because he does have heavy hands and he's good off of his back foot. Or if you want to go, I'd say bet the over and Kyle Machado winning a decision in this one. Let's move up onto the main card because there's not much else. Actually, quickly before we get to the main card. The last featured prelim is Ronnie Yaya against Victor Henry. This is a fight where I've got it as my lock of the night. I think Victor Henry is just that damn good. Ronnie Yaya is 28-11-1. He's coming off of a loss to Montel Jackson, a big stoppage in the first round for Jackson, and then he had a canceled bout after that. Hasn't fought since April of 2023, and he has this fight with Victor Henry. Henry has been all over the world fighting. He's 23-6. He's a product of Josh Barnett, UFC heavyweight, former UFC heavyweight. He holds championships for promotions, and he's got 6 wins via knockout, 8 wins via submission, and 9 wins via decision. He's a complete fighter. He fights all around. He's as exciting as they come. He's a big favorite in this fight, and I think that he's a guy that you should put as your lock of the night. Victor Henry, lock of the night, UFC on ESPN 55. I believe that's what this fight card is. All right, let's move up to the main card. Jonathan Pierce versus David Onama. I believe Onama missed weight. If we look at MMA Junkie here, scroll down a little bit. Onama missed featherweight limit by 2.5 pounds, fined 20% of his purse. So if we were going to make betting odds on this one, Jonathan Pierce should take this one in a fight that could have been very, very close, but Onama missing weight. I tend to favor the guy that had a better cut and didn't come into the scales overweight. So I'm going to go Jonathan Pierce in this one. I think it goes the distance. Jonathan Pierce by decision. We move up. We got Jonata Dinez against Austin Lane. Another close fight. Like, this is a close fight card with a lot of guys that don't necessarily have the name recognition because UFC 300 was so freaking huge that we had to put a fight card, or the UFC had to put a fight card together with fighters that just needed to fight, that weren't those big stars. And a bunch of these fights are those guys. This fight is so close. We've got 6-0 Denise against 12-4 Austin Lane. Again, a back and forth battle in this one. But if I were to pick a fighter, I think... Let's go over their fight records, actually, let's go over their records before we get into things and before I pick a winner. From Brazil, Jonata Diniz, again, he's undefeated. All of his fights have come by a finish and stoppage. And then we look at Austin Lane, who's coming off of a loss to Justin Tafa. Tough fight, for sure. And then he had a huge winning streak. But again, he hasn't won inside the octagon since his Contender Series fight. So in this one, I got to go with Denise via knockout. I think it comes early too. So I might, depending on what the betting odds are on this one and some of the props bets, I might go the under on this one, taking Denise via early stoppage. Mark my words on that one. We'll go Denise early stoppage. Next up, we got Katrine Silva against Ariane Lipski. This is a fun women's fight. Silva is nicknamed the Killer, or just Killer, and I think she comes into this one as a complete killer. Like, holy crap, a big-time killer in this one. She's on a huge winning streak. She finishes fights via submission or via knockout. And Lipski, again, a fighter who has fought a ton. She's 17-8, and in female fighting, that is a pretty impressive record. She is on a 3-fight winning streak. She beat Casey O'Neill via armbar in round 2 in December of 2023, which is, a tough victory against a very tough opponent. But I just think Katrine Silva brings much, much more to the table in this fight. And I've got to go with Silva via stoppage, maybe midway through round 2. Moving on up, we got the co-main event. Ryan Spann against Bogdav Guskov. Heavy-handed Ryan Spann, a guy who likes to throw bombs and can knock people the hell out. 21-9, coming off of a 2-fight losing skid. Bogdan Guskov, 15-3, beating Zach Poga. 2024, February, UFC Fight Night, round 1. This is a guy who can bang with the best of them. And I think this is a fight where whoever lands first is going to win. And I'm picking the man from Uzbekistan. Bogdan Guskov via knockout. I don't know when it happens. It could be early. I said the man who lands first wins this one. But it's got to be a heavy shot. And it's got to land on the chin. And it's got to land precise. But I'm going Guskov via knockout in this one. So a straight bet. In the main event, we got Mateos Nicolau against Alex Perez. And I did bet this. I did put this one in one of my bets. And I said this one is going to be the one who dictates the pace first. Both these guys are on losing skids, like I said earlier. Mateos Nicolau is riding a 1-fight losing skid, while Alex Perez, who's 24-8, is coming into this one on a 3-fight losing skid, losing to Davison Figueiredo, which, no slouch. Alex Pantoja, no slouch. And Mohamed Mokaev, again, no slouch. So 3-fight losing skid, but look at the amount of canceled bouts that we see here. Insane amount of, I don't know whether it's Perez pulling out, whether it's people dodging him, whether it's his opponents pulling out, but he's had cancel fight upon cancel fight upon cancel fight, and he's lost to just the best in the world in the division. And Mateos Nicolau's loss came to Brandon Royval. Again, another guy up there in the division, top-notch. Now, this is a top-notch main event between two guys that, they're not even in the UFC 5 video game. Well, Mateos Nicolau is now, since they added him yesterday, I believe. But a fight between two guys that are as exciting as they come at the weight class. But a lot of casual fans won't know who they are, so they're not going to end up watching this fight card. And this is one that I don't want to bet on because it's going to come down. The flyweights are so hard to bet on in the beginning, but it's a fight with who's going to dictate the pace and who's going to put the pressure on. Maybe who gets the fight to the ground and can control it there. I don't want to bet on this one, so I'm actually not even going to give you guys a pick for the main event. I think it's a coin toss, and if I were to toss a coin, I don't want to give you guys some false hope, as I'm not truly a betting guy and a guy who just likes to dabble in it for fun. But so I'm not going to touch on that one. As I said, I'd go over my DraftKings, FanDuel, and other betting stuff here for your guys' viewing pleasure, which, it might not be viewing pleasure for you guys because you might not agree with what I have to say, and I'd love to hear about that in the comment section below. But our UFC Fight Night promo, bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets. What I said in it, the best way to use DraftKings UFC promo, I talked about Victor Henry and Rani Yahya, and I said obviously the favorite is the one to go with, Victor Henry. And the underdog I'm betting is Austin Hubbard because this guy's as talented as they come. He looked great in the Ultimate Fighter finale against Kurt Hollabaugh. Actually, he looked great the entire season of that show. And I think that against a guy like Figlet, it's going to come down to relentlessness. And I feel like Austin Hubbard is that dog inside the cage. And I feel like he's an underdog bet that you could definitely go with. And then over on FanDuel, we've got bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets. You can click on that. My locks of the night on FanDuel are Victor Henry, as I said earlier. I believe he gets the job done. I'm not sure how, but he will get the job done in there. And then I feel like Ketlin Souza will be one to have a lock of the night as well. I didn't talk about her, but I feel like she is so powerful. Of her 13 victories, 8 of her fights have come by way of stoppage. So I feel like on FanDuel, she's another favorite that you need to bet on. And then our BetMGM promo is get $1,500 in bonus bets. They will match your offer for new customers. The current offer for new customers will give you up to $1,500 in bonus bets on your first bet. I talked about the Mateus Nicolau versus Alex Perez fight, how it's going to be the first guy to go. So again, it's truly a toss-up. The co-main event, I feel like, as I said, Guskov could get this one done early and in the first round. So I'd lay my money on him. And then the flyweight fight between Ariane Lipski and Karine Silva. Again, I feel like the killer Silva will get the job done in this one. And she's tenacious, fires on all cylinders, and she will do what she does in there and get the fight finished. Wow, as I said, something a bit different than any other video I've done. I've never really done a predictions video or a best bets video, but I just did, and I had fun with it. And it was a little longer than expected, but who the heck cares? I hope you guys are sitting through this one. I will be back on Monday unless something big comes down over the weekend. But I'll be back Monday, Wednesday, Friday next week. I got a few interviews lined up, some fun ones. I'll have shorts over on the YouTube channel as well and on the Instagram page. So make sure you click that like button, click the subscribe button, click the notification bell, and make sure you follow MMA Sucka on all platforms. MMA Sucka on Twitter, MMA_Sucka on Instagram, and again, the MMA Sucka YouTube channel. Check out MMASucka.com for all your news, rumors, fight results, and everything else in between. For that, I'm out.